Good evening, everybody. It is June 12th, 2024. This is the meeting of the Ashland School Committee. We start each meeting by reading our vision statement. The Ashland Public Schools strives to be a model district that creates a culture of inclusivity for our diverse students and staff who feel safe and supported, are empowered with the academic and social-emotional skills to pursue their chosen path, and embrace their roles as positive contributors to local and global communities. This meeting is being recorded by WACA Cable TV. In the order of business this evening, we will have our call to order, our agenda review and adoption, and then with the consensus of the school committee, we will do the recognition of the retirees, and then we will have time for public comment. And the administrative items this evening include the field trip proposal, the varsity cross-country team Vermont, August 30 to September 2, 2024, appointment to the WACA Cable Access Board, counseling, social emotional learning update, Pidaway School Improvement Plan update, Mendez School Improvement Plan update, student services update, student activity accounts, bank reconciliations, superintendent's evaluation, assistant superintendent's update, superintendent's update, warrant approvals, gifts and donations, minutes from May 22nd, committee reports of activities will include the member updates, the action items, and then I will move to go into executive session under section 21A3 to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, and not to return to open session. This is regarding the Ashland School Custodians and Maintenance Workers and Public Employees Local Union 1156. So I will take the roll call and ask if you're good with the order of business this evening. Paul Kendall?
Yes.
Tina Fatanides?
Yes.
Mark
Yes.
Carey? And Marcy Culver-Will is absent this evening. So we are going to start the meeting with the recognition of the retirees. We're going to have a few words from the principals of the different buildings, and Jim tells me there are how many hours? Hundreds of hours?
340 years worth of.
Yeah, not hours, years.
Yeah, years.
Yeah, I can't
Hours.
quite
That's like 6 million hours.
340 times 108.
And yeah,
good with
anyhow,
that.
so we have a room full of people who have just really literally made Ashland what it is today, and we're so excited to honor you tonight with this beautiful plate that you get to bring home with your name on it and the amount of years of service that you've had to the district. So are we going in order of buildings, or?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to go.
Okay, so we're gonna start at the preschool, please, and first is Tricia Tomaso. Where are you, Tricia? Yes, I mean, you had my babies, Tricia, so that's how long ago this was that you started.
Oh, there we are. No, you're coming up with me. We'll be on TV together. So I just wrote a few things. Tricia Tomaso is our longest member of the Ashland preschool community and is retiring after 30 years of service. Pretty much her entire career has been with us. To say she's seen it all has been an understatement. She's gone through many building moves, changes, hallways, annexes, the Warren School and back, as well as curriculum changes, and helped us implement our inclusive learning model as one of our very first special educators as part of the Ashland preschool. Her family share that she's a great communicator, and she's always available to share information and strategies to support kiddos at home. The PIT crew, is grateful for her collaborative team efforts. She's always warm and welcoming to any new Pidaway community member. We wish her all the best in her retirement, and thank you for a wonderful career here in Ashland.
Thank you. Thank you, Tricia, on behalf of the school committee for everything you've done.
Okay.
All right, next we're heading over to the Warren School. And Elise Wilkinson, where are you? Another person that we go way back with. We raised our kids together. 21 years. So thank you so much. We appreciate you.
I don't think you want the hug from me. I've been at the grill. I've been standing at the grill for the last hour and a half. So I've been very fortunate over the last 8 years to work with Elise. The other night we had a chance to share this during the retirement party for the Warren staff. But one of the things that really strikes me about Elise is upon my arrival 8 years ago, we were not doing a lot of small group instruction, and it's really where we've shifted over the last few years. And it's really been about making decisions on data and what does kids need during this small group instruction. Elise has been doing that prior to my arrival at the Warren School. And just watching the progress that her students have made over the years has been truly remarkable. And I've been fortunate to be able to work and learn alongside her. Thank you for everything you've been doing for the district for the 21 years. You sure?
Thank you.
Next up, Patricia Kane, 34 years. That's a long time. Thank you so much for your service. That is for you, from the district, and he has a few words. Thank you.
Oh, same about more of just having that opportunity to work with Trish as well. So Tricia has been in second grade for the 8 years that I've worked alongside her and learned with her. One of the things that is just truly remarkable about her as a teacher, as an educator, as a colleague is her ability to make connections. And it's not just with adults, but what she's able to do is make a community of learners every year in her classroom. Each year she gets some very challenging students that have had a history of having difficulty of being part of a class, and they end up being isolates when they enter her room. And within a few short weeks, they are an equal member of that community. And what's been really interesting is over the years, and one particular child sticks out who moved to us as a second grader. The family commented that he had never connected to a teacher or to other students in any of his schooling. When this child was absent for a day, the rest of the class was asking where he was. And it's because of what Tricia did to make that classroom special, to make it so that every child in the room was part of a family and that they all belonged to each other. And for that, it's been truly remarkable. Personally as well, I've loved just having Tricia be someone that I could walk to and say, I'm thinking about doing this. How do you think it will go over with everyone else? And she's always given me amazing advice of where she thinks it's a great direction to go, one where she'll say, you might want to think about that again. And for that, I'm just indebted forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia.
I smell like a grill.
Jennifer Temple, 36 years, another superstar of the Ashland School District. Thank you so much. She touched so many little lives. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. So touched.
Again, having the opportunity to work with Jen for 8 years has been amazing. And Jen served a few roles during these 8 years. She's been our ELA coordinator, and she has been instrumental in the progress that our school has made, and also I would say the district because of her role during our ELA curriculum meetings, which is not just the elementary, but through 12th grade. Jen has been one of our leaders about changing our reading instruction and making sure that it was based on science, making sure that it was meeting our students' needs, working with our colleagues to support their growth as well. The other part that I just love about Jen's classroom is the amount of fun that goes in each and every day. As I mentioned the other night at the retirement party, whether it's someone needing to give a password to get in the door because they have to read a sign on the door, and in first grade, that's the coolest. What is another part that just is about is Jen is one of the last to leave every single night, and after all these years, it's still the amount of time that she puts in of planning to make sure every child's getting what they need, communicating with their families. We will not be able to replace you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jen.
And if I'd probably be remiss, so Jen and I have more of a connection than a lot of the other teachers, so our families, my daughter went through a really tough year that year. When she had surgery, she came to school with a halo, and the job that she did and Mike did as administrator there was amazing. And we get sitting here and talk about connections out in front of her class every day. She's shaking the hands and she's doing what we talk about here. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you all. Sandy Nino, 36 years, and another face that has certainly been here every day that I have and my kids, and the hundreds and thousands of kids have seen your beautiful face all these years. So thank you for everything that you've done for us.
Sandy goes so far beyond her role as an administrative assistant in our office. Sandy is the lifeblood of our school. Sandy is that person that greets everyone when they come in the door with a smile. She's been doing that forever. from when she was a student at the school to now being in the front office for all of these years. Families will come in and she'll actually remember parents that they were students at the Warren School. And again, that just supports the community feeling of our school and parents feeling safe about knowing that there's people in our school that truly care for their children. As well, what Sandy does for our staff. Sandy is one of the matriarchs of our school that takes care of us all, makes sure that people are recognized when they're doing amazing work. And again, we will not be able to replace her and everything that she does. I'm sure I'll be learning some of the things over the next year that I'll say, Sandy just made that happen, and now I need to figure out how we're going to do that again. Sandy, I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
I think we're all set with the Warren School. Where's Jana? Rose, 19 years.
Rose, you remember how much my girls used to love come hang out with you in your office? And I'm sure that was true for many, many other students as well. Thank you so much. It was my privilege. Thank you. Yeah, to see that smiling face when you walk in the building. Thank you.
Short and sweet. I was so excited for her, I jumped out of my seat. We had our retirement party last week, and I had the opportunity to say a few words about Rose, so I was going to share those here. Rose is like a nautical lighthouse, for she plays many roles for seafarers, just as people do at Mendez. Nautical lighthouses are beacons of light, providing guidance and hope to people lost at sea. Rose is a beacon of light to all who cross her path. Daily, people visit Rose to seek her advice or to ask her a question. She always stops what she is doing to connect and provide support to whoever rolls in. Lighthouses are designed to withstand harsh conditions. Rose withstands harsh conditions like upset parents, angry students, and frustrated staff. Both the lighthouse and Rose are still standing after a storm. I learned that Rose started 19 years ago, and I was so fortunate to have the last 2 years with you there. You are the brightest light for people who come in. You are helpful, kind, patient, and loving, and we wish you all the best in your retirement, and I will miss you.
And then Ms. Carrie Underwood, 33 years, oh my goodness. And I know beyond teaching, you also served on the negotiating team and did lots of other things, I'm sure, but thank you for your input with everything. Appreciate you.
Congratulations, Carrie. Carrie's analogy was to a head lifeguard. Because if you've spent time at our school, you know that Carrie takes care of herself and her children and what they need, but she's also got an eye out both sides of her head for what her colleagues need. And it's been a pleasure to watch her mentor younger teachers, newer teachers, and to share the wealth of all of that she knows about children. Her great strength is teaching children how to read and working with special education students and just being generally a wonderful fifth grade teacher and advocate for kids. So thank you for everything that you've done, Carrie.
Thank you.
I will miss you.
And then Dave DiGirolamo. I guess you're not going to give the speech about yourself.
Are you going to do your own?
Is he supposed to talk about himself?
He is. No.
I can say a few things, because Dave was here. He was the history teacher for my oldest son, Jake, one of his favorite teachers in the building. And so you've been here in a lot of different roles. History teacher, you were the dean at the high school.
That's true.
And now principal of the middle school. And so you've, over all these years, contributed so much to all of us and worked with a tremendous administrative team and impacted lots of lives in lots of different ways. So I'm going to give you that.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, Michelle Smith. I'm going to start this one. You can come up. And I'll stay where my microphone because I want everyone to hear this. Michelle, I want you to know how much we appreciate you. I've served on the negotiating team with you a couple different times, not the most recent one, but certainly we have experience doing that together. And those are private meetings. Nobody else is in that room, but everybody needs to know how much of a fierce advocate you are for your union. And I respect that so very much in you. You always were such a fighter for what your constituents need and want, and at the same time worked with us and with Jim on the outside to make sure that we came up with deals that work for everybody, right? It's not easy, and sometimes we're stressed, and sometimes we're not happy with each other, but you always just carried yourself, professionally with the utmost respect for who you were representing, as well as us, and it's very unusual. We hear that all the time. When we go to conferences, we hear that there are things that happen in Ashland that are just not common in other places. We read the papers, we see all the fights with unions and the strikes and all the things that have happened. And the fact that those things have not happened here, you're a huge part of that. And you will be missed, and I appreciate you. And even though, these things are set up so that we're like at a different side of the spectrum, at the end of the day, like, there are people that are in this room, yourself included, have been here for more than 30 years. We want it to be a good place to work. We want it to be a good place to raise our kids and educate our kids. We want to pay everybody as fairly as we can, and there's only so much to go around. So those things cause tension, but I think we do it well here, and thanks to you. You're going to be missed. So.
Congratulations, Michelle, for 33 years of service. To talk about roles, Michelle serves as our general music teacher, also as the union president, and communication with the union throughout my years as principal there. She's the chorus director, recently put on chorus concerts, which she did every year since I was there. Also worked with Mendez students, providing private lessons, so coordinated a lot with Brian Koenig, working with not just students at the middle school, but students at the Mendez school as well. While I was there, she also served as the music director, worked with many of our drama or theater teachers and assisting in productions. So she's certainly served many roles since I've been there and long before I know, and has had an impact. Our general music teacher and unified arts teachers see every student over the course of the year. So some teachers I know see a certain amount, but if this year we have 680 students within the building, Michelle would have taught 680 students. So when you think about the amount of access, the amount of impact, and the amount of students that she's interacted with over 33 years, it's pretty overwhelming. So certainly for 33 years, I want to sincerely congratulate Michelle and wish you all the best in your retirement. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. So we're coming to the end of our ceremony, and you're free to leave as soon as it's over, but I just want to collectively thank you on behalf of all of us up here and really the entire school district. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of talent in the room and the amount of impact that you collectively have had, and it's almost panicking because, when you all leave, it's a big hole. And I know we have a lot of great people still here, but there's a lot of long time, amazing, all of you, people that have done a lot for all of us. So wish you the best in your next phase. I hope you find, something meaningful and enjoy your time, and that you come back and visit us. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? No? So I will let people scoot out if they want to, and then I'll move down the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Karen.
I know.
Sliding around tonight.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Trish.
everything. All right, next up we have, is there anyone in the audience who would like to give public comment? Cece Doucette. Hello?
Hi, Cece Doucette, having graduated 2 daughters from this wonderful school district. It was beautiful to see all the commemorations tonight, so bravo to Ashland. As we know, Ashland became the first in the nation back in 2014 to begin taking precautionary measures with wireless technology. And as I was presenting to the select board recently, it dawned on me that many in our district have not followed the science that has come through in the last 10 years. So I wanted to bring to your attention some of what has gone on. When I spoke to the select board, they said, well, we don't really see anything in mainstream media. There's a good reason for that. Mainstream media is owned by the wireless industry and their parent conglomerations. So we're very grateful when well-known groups like the Environmental Working Group, who puts out the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen pesticide list every year, when they start taking this issue on. And they have put out some really amazing fact sheets of late. This one is a study on wireless radiation exposure for children should be hundreds of times lower than current federal limits. And I think I've mentioned in the past that the FCC has been sued for ignoring 11,000 pages of evidence of harm. And I today received something in my inbox on the published research on the health effects of non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation. And there's a section here on children's vulnerabilities especially, and there are sections on Wi-Fi. There are pregnant and prenatal exposure studies, brain impacts, memory and cognition, behavioral and emotional, fertility and reproduction, DNA damage and genotoxicity, cancer and wireless radio frequency radiation, and it goes on and on. Headaches, electromagnetic sensitivity, diabetes, obesity, oxidative stress, miscarriage, endocrine system, immune system, and it's having a big impact on our flora and fauna as well. So the studies are all there. They are peer-reviewed and highly regarded journals. So we have the science, and I'm really hoping that we will get back to looking at this issue as we promised we would do a decade ago. The school committee under Lori's tutelage there had said they would stay on top of this issue. So I think it's time to bring it back front and center. Summer is a wonderful time to look at this because there are very simple solutions to be had with regard to reducing exposures and swapping out wireless connections with hardwired connections. So, Lori, the last time I gave public comment at the end of May, we discussed asking whether we still have our precautionary measures posted in the schools, so I would appreciate your feedback on that. And I requested a meeting so that we can sit down and talk about this and maybe start sketching out some ideas.
Thanks, Cece.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up is the field trip proposal, the varsity cross-country team Vermont, August 30 to September 2nd.
Sure. Please,
Yes,
thank
if you
That'd be great.
could.
Thanks. Emily, intro.
Yes,
Yep, fine.
please. Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Sharon Ames. My hat tonight is head coach for the Ashland High School cross-country team. But I also wanted to introduce, I'm not sure if all of you know, John Briniger and Emily Riley, who have been coaches, volunteer for the last 4 years. And as you have seen, our numbers have grown immensely over the last 4 years, but especially over the last 2 years. And I think a big part of that is us creating a solid team. Kids want to learn to run, they want to run, they're developing a passion for it. So the idea of the camp came out as a team building activity, but I think I want Emily to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, wait. So we'd be going up to Vermont. It would be at my parents' house. So we'd be camping in their yard, but it's on, it's at the end of a dead-end dirt road, several hundred acres of woods, 5 miles of trails. So we'd basically be running, swimming, hiking, bonding. There might be a talent show involved, disc golf. And it would run from the Friday before Labor Day to the Monday after, so it'd just be Labor Day weekend.
And they need to swim in the lake because showers will not be
Yes.
available.
Yeah, the house is on a well, so there's
Yeah.
not unlimited
You're
water.
going away with a bunch of teenagers with no showers.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might want to think about that again.
We're all runners, really.
Yeah.
We're all runners. Fine.
Yeah, and they're running, great.
Any questions, or did you have some other info that you wanted to share before I?
I would just say it's a common thing that high school teams do. It's something that some of us have been counselors at. My high school team did it all 4 years. It's just it's one of those things about being a high school athlete, specifically being a high school runner, that just it's something that everybody remembers. It is that team bonding, team camaraderie aspect. You go away to camp and everyone just kind of becomes a team and really stretches and focuses on their goals for what they want to achieve over that next year.
We also wanted to say that it is voluntary, so if there are kids or their parents that are uncomfortable with it, there are options.
Right, and there's no penalty for them.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Yeah, but I have a bunch, so you can go first if you want.
I was just gonna ask, in terms of how many people are going, is there any selection criteria for who gets to go, and, kind of the financial component of it is, how, what is the cost, and how are we making sure that it's available and accessible to all the kids that wanna come?
So I guess we don't know exactly how many kids can go because we had to do this step first before we could
Right.
really put it out to them. We're kind of estimating 20-ish. We had, I think, 30 kids on the roster last year, so every kid we've talked to has been very enthusiastic about it, but I know there's gonna be people going away and families that can't go. Right now, we're looking at about $100 per kid to cover food, and we're gonna rent 12-passenger vans to cover that. If finances are an issue, we do have money from our SNAP raise. We have several $1,000s from that, so we definitely wouldn't let finances be an issue. And anyone can come, the incoming freshmen, it's not just a varsity thing or just for certain runners, it's for the whole team.
Excellent.
So this is kind of a cool but unusual kind of trip in that you're going to a private residence and there's going to be swimming in a lake, and so I assume we're going to be coordinating with nurses about any what staff members are going? Is it just one?
From Ashland Public
Right,
Schools
so-
staff, myself, and then 3 of our coaches.
Okay,
We're
so
all coordinated.
yeah, so but we're going to be
I'm
working with the
also
nurses on
CPR
that.
trained,
And I was going to ask if there's swimming involved, how are we,
Former
what are there going to be the protocols there? Is somebody going to be watching out,
You're
not
it.
just letting, I know
Yeah.
these are high school students, but still, if there's those kind of things, we don't want accidents, and, especially you get a group of kids, nobody wants to admit they're the one that really can't swim all that well, right? So, do you have you already thought about that and ensuring that there's rules and someone's going to be,
Safety.
watching that component of it?
So another hat that I have worn throughout my years is the DC trip with our 8th graders, and I'm still standing, but there have been sleepless nights making sure that everybody is where they need to be. I do coordinate with the nurses at the beginning of the season. Nurses and I specifically talk about food allergies and whatnot, so that, of course, would be part of it.
And then, can you make sure that everyone involved, you've identified, because this is, is unusual in that it's not a prepared trip by a professional organization, and it's probably, kind of rural, that you know where the emergency services are, everybody knows how to contact them and things like that, so you're not, trying to figure that out at the time.
It is, so where we're gonna be is kind of the middle of nowhere, but it is 10 minutes from Dartmouth College, and so there's Dartmouth College Medical Center, Children's Hospital of Dartmouth, which is probably second only to Boston Children's Hospital.
Right.
For,
Yeah, so
children's
just
medicine.
prepare that,
Yeah.
all those things that, we take for granted on a lot of our trips, because they're, professionally done, and we're just kind of have the eyes for the trip, right? So just, it's cool, but with that unusualness, I ask these type of questions, and kind of just to piggyback on the cost stuff, just when you're going to the kids, and you probably know a lot of the kids, you probably maybe get a sense, but one of the things we talk about with a lot of trips here is, how do we ensure that the financial component isn't preventing anybody from raising their hand and saying they want to go, right? And this is pretty low, but we have lots of students where if it's more than $10, they wouldn't ask their parents for it, and they would think not to go. So,
Right, so we always, not that we've done this before, but for other activities, let parents know that if they have any of those financial concerns or other concerns, to reach out to me specifically, and we can work it out. So it's not through, everybody needs to know that my child needs some assistance.
yeah. So as long as you're thinking about that, how do we get people to raise their hands regardless? And that's something we talk about with a lot of the trips.
We also have a little bit of a lens of it, because they do have to pay the activity fee to join the team. So if there's already that hardship there, they're gonna self-identify, so it makes it a little bit easier conversation, because we become aware of it, because they already have been through that process, and we were formally in practice for 2 weeks. Also on the CPR front, 5 of our runners are actually trained ARC counselors, and 1 is the lifeguard for ARC over the summer. So we do have additional resources in our own peer population amongst all the coaches too.
That's cool, and you've obviously thought about it, so that's good.
So the only, I have sort of the same types of concerns that Tina Ball voiced. I think we did have a trip that was kind of similar in the sense that there wasn't an outside organization running. I can't place it. It was basketball, okay. And I think one of the questions that I think I raised then, I just want to ask you now is, since it's on private property, and it sounds like it's your family residence, and Cory checks, obviously you all have done them, is there going to be anybody else in the house or on the property that hasn't been Cory checked when you're there?
It would just be my parents, and they could come down, like if they needed to come here and get a Cory, you know, they're obviously willing to do that.
Okay.
They wouldn't have to come, just
Okay.
fill out some paperwork.
Okay.
But,
Although they do come down.
They're down
to
here all the
watch
time.
oh, if they're here, yeah, if they're here anyway, but I'm sure that's something, right, we could do online. They wouldn't have to come here, but it's probably a good idea, I think it's required by any adult that's gonna be around any school-age child from our district has to be
Yeah, I
Cory.
told them that they would probably need to do that.
Yeah.
They're fine with that.
So that would be the only, that was
Yeah,
my
so
question.
that was the only other concern I'd have, and I'm certainly if they're going to assume they're just going to check out, or you wouldn't be doing this at all. So,
Yeah.
and then the concerns just about medical and supervision, and I think anytime you've got 20 teenagers, obviously, but you work with them all the time, so you know what you're getting into.
And I was actually going to ask Amy if I could take the first aid bag with the defibrillator, the AED device in it as well. Just, I carry that everywhere in my car anyway, so.
Excellent.
And I assume that you're requiring everyone to take the vans up and not allow for any private or
Well, no
self-drive.
students are driving, but if parents.
We'll need some for
Yeah,
parents just
yeah.
for amount of gear, but no, students would only be in the vans.
Yeah.
You're talking about the chaperones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be, the 3 of us coaches, our spring coach will also be a chaperone, and then we'll probably have 2 of our parents that would be there as well, because we'll need people to just help us cook. It's, even with 20 kids and 4 of us
Yeah.
running, we still probably need 2 more people that can run to just manage the pack all the way through.
For sure.
But it's, so we'll put all the kids in the vans, and all gear will be in private
And
cars.
we'll get those parents Cory checked as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think so. When we do vote, I think we typically, when there's some unknowns and they're still working some stuff out, we just kind of make it conditional on approval by, kind of like Jim and Chris.
Have you already done that part? I mean, have you already done a final approval on this, reviewed it, or are you going to? Sometimes, like, the packet comes to us and it's already been signed off on by Jim and
It
Kelly.
was been signed off by Kevin, it's been
Okay.
signed off by Mike, it's been signed off by Kelly.
Okay.
I always wait for the school committee before I sign it, but I'm totally 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
pretty
I
far
think
down
all-
It's
the
a
road.
trip, and,
Yeah.
if you need me to stop in at Thetford, I drive by there
I was just
4
gonna
times a
say-
month. Yeah, right. I mean,
Right
I
off
was just
91.
gonna say,
I know.
You know the routes.
I know it well.
Did you not learn anything from going to Europe? I mean,
No, but I'm just saying, I go home a lot, so.
All right.
I'll
Sarah
move-
goes home a lot as well, so she's Northfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the field trip.
Come for the township.
I will move to approve the field trip proposal for varsity cross-country team to Vermont for August 30th to September 2nd, subject to the superintendent's review of final safety concerns.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to thank the 3 of you too for
Yeah.
the incredible effort that you've put into the team. My kids are not cross-country runners, but they've both benefited from the growth of the programs being a part of winter and spring track. And it's a testament to you and all of the work that you guys have put into the team. So thank you. It's a really incredible program.
You're welcome.
Good job. Thanks.
Thank you.
I do, I know.
Okay, appointment to the WACA Cable Access Board. Who's doing that?
You are.
I am?
No,
But I mean, is anybody
Barbara,
presenting
no,
anything?
they're not. So Barbara Chisholm, something you know, because Makita Keegan was elected
Yeah.
to be on the select board, she has to give up her position on the cable access board. So Barbara had called me, and there was interest from Deputy Chief Lynn Morahan to be on and to fill out the rest of the term for Makita, and she was just looking for that approval from the board. Because we submit one person to the Cable Access Board.
What's the remaining term?
The remaining term is through 2020, she resigned, it says through 2026, Mark.
December 31st, 2026.
We've got a
It's
motion.
2 years.
I'll move to appoint, was Lynn Monahan?
Deputy Chief Morahan, yep.
Deputy Chief Monahan to the WACA Cable Access Board as the school committee representative.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, an update on the counseling, social, emotional learning.
Jen Taylor.
Jen Taylor.
I will share the slide deck. So give me a second, Jen, please. Okay.
All right, so I am just going to do hopefully a short and sweet highlights from our department this year. So my first slide is talking about Cartwheel Care, which is our telehealth therapy partner. That this was our first year with them. So they provide telehealth therapy specifically to school districts. And the nice thing about them is that we do not have to, there are no waiting lists. So our students who are referred to them from our school counseling staff and our psychologists have about a 7 to 10 day wait before they actually start seeing a therapist. Their therapists also speak a variety of languages, like a wide variety of languages. So that's not a barrier. And then there's obviously no barrier in terms of traveling anywhere because it is virtual. They also take all insurances. So it's been a really great partnership. Our families have reported that it's worked extremely well. Our students are reporting that they really like this format of therapy. We have referred 38 students who have had continuous therapy this year. The top referral reasons are to develop coping skills, students who are anxious, and students who are experiencing stress. Our highest percentage of referrals have been 43% from the middle school, which I think really makes sense because that is kind of the area where, you know, I have heard all along that our biggest social emotional needs are from the middle school, and a lot of our middle school kids do not like to go in person to meet with therapists. So I think this has been a really good avenue for our middle school kids to get treatment. After we did our signs of suicide this year with our 8th graders, we had quite a increase in referrals to Cartwheel Care after that. Mostly kids who were just experiencing a lot of not necessarily suicidal ideation, but just a lot of anxiety and stress that they had endorsed on, and some depression that they had endorsed on the scale that they fill out. And so when we were meeting with them after, we said, oh, we have this, would you be interested? And then we called their parents. And so that was when we started to really refer a lot more kids. And so we will be continuing our partnership next year, thanks to Karen Spilka and the grant that she's continued to earmark for us. And the nice thing is our students can continue to work with the Cartwheel therapist over the summer, so that does not end. We can continue to refer students over the summer, so students from the summer programs with us, if any of the staff notice that they are in need of therapy, we can make referrals. Next year, they're also adding a family therapy component, so students who are in there, if they need that family therapy piece, which a lot of times they do, they are also doing that. And then they're also adding a school staff component, and they're going to make sure that there are different therapists for the school staff, so that you're not seeing, a therapist isn't seeing a school's teacher who would be seeing a student they have in their classroom. So I think I'm excited for that, because I often get calls from principals or from staff who are looking for something quick, that they, you know, rather than waiting for, 6 months to see someone, something quicker. So I am excited to be able to offer that to staff next year.
Before you move on, Jen, can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes, you can.
You talked about the Cartwheel taking all insurances, but also it sounded like with support from Senator Spilka's office, is there grant funding, and if so, what's like the net cost to the district, even if it's covered by grant funding? I just want to get a sense of it.
Yep, so so they take insurance, but we have to pay them because we have to pay them like a fee for their therapists, and it is, I think this year it was about like 24,000.
Okay.
Next year it went up to like about 30 something because we added on the teachers and things like that.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a great program. I just wanted to have a sense of sort of what we were contributing to that cost and how it worked.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was just gonna ask if the grants that Senator Spilka helped secure cover the full cost of that, or?
The full cost, yep.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, just wanted to confirm.
Jen, could you speak to the grant itself? Karen has designated this for a number of years through her social emotional wellness programming that she's really, such a staunch advocate for, and we've benefited greatly. I forget what the amount was this year.
It was 100,000 this year.
So it certainly covers the cost of what we're outlaying.
Great.
So Jen, with something with a service like Cartwheel Care, is there anything that they do to that? Because they as a service have the ability to see what's going on with the overall body of people that are going to us from our district. Do they have any way to then provide us generalized feedback of different things we could do that could support our students and staff differently or better?
Yeah, so that's actually a big part of it. I meet with their program manager once a month to talk about our students, and then each therapist reaches out to the school counselor or psychologist who referred the student as soon as they start therapy, and as long as the parent signs a release for that. And then they usually about every month they communicate with each other or as needed to see, what's going on at school. Our therapists or our counselors or psychologists will say, this is going on, can you talk to them about that? Would you recommend anything for school? And, vice versa. So that's a huge piece of it.
But if there's patterns or anything like that we can do more holistically that could support our students, it'd be through those communications that then we would be able to notice those patterns and implement something or look to do a different strategy internally.
Yep.
That could potentially, hopefully avoid maybe some of these students going to have to go out for this, right?
Correct. And then also, I just got a 504 referral from one of the Cartwheel therapists. So we'll get, things like that. And they, part of Cartwheel is also, they have psychiatrists. So sometimes our counselors will say, I'm really concerned about, this student and their anxiety. And after the therapist has started seeing the student for individual therapy for a certain amount of time, that they might then make the psychiatrist referral right within Cartwheel Care rather than having to go on Children's Hospital for a long wait list. So that, eliminates that. So there is a lot of that consultation piece, which is really great because we don't always get that with our outside clinicians. It's a lot harder to do. This is built right into this model.
So, well, I actually interpreted your question a little bit differently, and that triggered at least a thought different from mine, which is sort of looking at whether you get feedback on some sort of de-identified basis, so that for example, we're seeing a lot of students come from an Ashland High School that are struggling with X or reporting problems at school, so that we as a school district or as a building might say, what might be the common cause, or what are we doing that could be better supportive of our students, sort of outside the counseling realm, but either programmatically or with attitudes or what have you. To me, the most egregious could be if you had students that were all members of the LGBTQI plus community, right? A community that often needs more support, but we're all reporting stress at school because of how staff are responding to them and supporting them. That would be important for us to understand so we can address other things.
He asked my question better.
Okay.
Okay.
So I did understand what you're asking.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry,
anyway,
but I did
that-
not.
So anyway, I don't know if they, I'm just curious.
No, we don't have access to that at this point, but I can certainly ask for that because they're really, I mean, this is their, I think, second year as an organization. So I can certainly ask our program manager if that is something that they could collect and provide to us, just like they provide, just like they provide the information about, you know, what the referrals, you know, are, like the coping skills, the depression, anxiety, like the top reasons. I'm sure that.
Yeah, I mean, what we both were asking is, they have the ability to, you know, kind of see what they're seeing and seeing patterns, you know, de-identify things so we're not getting anything other than this is what we're seeing, and then we can take that back, and whether it's a support difference, whether it's something structurally within the school or whatever that is, that we can, instead of just saying, hey, I have these Band-Aids, I'm gonna keep on putting these Band-Aids over here.
Right.
We might be able to say, I don't need the Band-Aid anymore because we've made an adjustment of some sort, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I
It
suspect.
raises my privacy
yeah.
red flags,
Yep,
and in
sure
question,
does.
this is kind of private clinical therapy. That's where just providing a connection to private therapy. And so there, I have a lot of red flags that get raised about the sharing of any of that information. But I don't know the question, but it's, you know,
No,
it's definitely a tricky, it's a
I
tricky,
think
it's a
it's-
tricky mechanism to get feedback from, because it is a private service. We're just connecting students with it.
Although it seems like, and do the majority of the parents sign the release that allows for, you know, the sharing of at least some information between so I would imagine this particular situation would allow at least sharing of some information if a fair portion of them are signing that release, but.
Yeah, I think Tina raises a valid question, and may very well be they're gonna say, that's not really what we're in the business of doing, we're here to, right? So I think, fully understood. It may also be that, you know, in terms of the overall communication that's coming back into the people that are authorized, we can be aware of themes. I think that's
Right,
really
right.
the bigger question of however we get it, if there's an opportunity to learn something about ourselves.
Absolutely agree,
At
yeah.
a building-based level, a district-based level, or what have you, you know, let's at least keep our eyes open for those opportunities, that's all.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll bring that up with our program manager and see what she says. Okay. All right, so Care Solace is another partnership that we have just begun. So Care Solace is similar, but they don't actually provide therapy. They connect families with therapists. This can be in person or virtual. So this is also for our staff's family members, immediate family members, our students, and our students' immediate family members. And they also have care coordinators in almost every language. They're open, you know, 365 days a year. I can see on the dashboard, like, when people are calling. They are open like 24 hours a day, so a care coordinator is always available. So I can see that people are calling at like midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, because if people are really worried about themselves or a family member, they might be doing this in the middle of the night, and a lot of times they are. We've only had a few.
Bless you.
We've had a few referrals from our whole administrative team has been trained in this so far, so everyone can make referrals of students or families or staff members, and all of our counselors and psychologists can do that as well, and they've all been trained. We've had, I think, 4 student referrals so far, and all of those 4 are currently in therapy. We've had a few staff referrals as well. With staff referrals, it's completely confidential, so I can't see, none of us can see who the staff member is, but we can just see that there are staff members that are currently taking advantage of this, which is what we want. They can connect people with all different levels of care, so not just outpatient individual therapy, but inpatient, different levels of hospitalization, not just therapy, but also substance use services. So it kind of expands what we are able to connect people with. which I think is really great for us to be able to do that. So I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to really use that a lot more. So again, this is about a 12,000, oh, sorry, I keep pushing this. This is about a 12,000, oh, you know, okay, a $12,000 service. And again, this is from the Karen's Look at Your Mark, so we're really fortunate to be able to have this, and our counselors are really excited about it. Okay, so I wanted to share some data. We've just started working from our strategic plan. One of our areas was to ensure that all of our students have a trusted adult. So for our K-5 students, we really didn't have a way of collecting data for this. So this is something that our school counselors have been working on this year. So I just wanted to show you what this looks like at Mendez and Warren. So both schools this year, the counselors have created a way to explicitly teach what a trusted adult is, and then a way to collect that data. So you can see on the left, the Warren School is an example of one of their slides of what a trusted adult does. And then on the bottom, you can see this is what the student will fill out at the end of their lesson. I can name a trusted adult at school and home, so you can see the student drew a picture of Mr. Regan as their trusted adult at school, and then mom and dad as their trusted adult at home. And the counselors
Great picture.
provided me with lots of pictures.
And the glasses and
And lots of different teachers and professionals in the school, and it was really, really great to see that. And what they did went even further is they created a whole spreadsheet at Warren School, and they have listed, you know, so Mrs. Linares is listed, and then all the students in the school that identified her as their trusted adult are under that. And they have it by grade level. So they have an entire spreadsheet identified with each student's trusted adult. Every student in the whole school has a trusted adult. So this is our first time we've ever had an actual way of collecting data for that and an explicit way of teaching it. So I was really pleased to see that. At the Mendez School, they will start collecting this data next year, but they have developed their lesson. They are choosing to show an actual video about what a trusted adult is, again, sort of developmentally appropriate. For that age student, have a discussion on what it means to be a trusted adult, and administer, they have a wellness questionnaire that they administer with the trusted adult question in it. And then they will go and find the students who do not have a trusted adult at school and make a plan as to who can connect with them to develop that. One of the things that the counselors at Mendez in the middle school bring up to me a lot is that oftentimes it's the students that are meeting with administrators or counselors on a daily basis that say they don't have a trusted adult. So we are hoping that by explicitly teaching what a trusted adult is, who a trusted adult is, and what they do, that students might be able to say, oh, Mrs. McGuire is my trusted adult, Mrs. Lareniga is my trusted adult, but we don't know, you know, and sometimes students don't like to, you know, I think as students get older, they don't always like to identify who their trusted adult is. So we have to think about that as well when we're relying on students to report trusted adults. So this is kind of the beginning of our collection of this data.
So Jen, so this is done like during a lesson or something with the counselors?
Yes.
Which I think is great. We've always wanted to be able to map that out. How would we identify students? Because I could see if you're in this lesson, and you're asked to do this, you're going to write down somebody, right? You're not, especially if you don't have a trusted, you're not going to feel comfortable saying, I don't have it. You're going to be like, Mr. Regan, my teacher, whoever it is, because that's probably what's expected of you, right? And so what can we do to try to really identify those? I think it works for a large percentage of the student, this will 100% be accurate and work, right? But for those other ones that may not, they just might be writing down what, you know, the easy answer is Mr. Regan or my teacher, right? But if they don't feel that that's true, you know, how could we possibly identify those students and identify that need?
Right. I mean, I think that's a.
I'm asking. You probably don't have the answer because it's a hard answer, right? But
Yeah. I think that our counselors would probably have a pretty good idea of those students already. I think that honestly at Warren, I think most students really would have a trusted adult, just from being there and meeting with students. I think that most, if not all.
I mean, I look at Pete's story tonight of, I think it was Ms. Kane, right? About, you know, that the parents said that this kid has never felt connected to a single soul at school before, right? And so that student right there, now, you know, in Ms. Kane's class, obviously I think the students were really connecting with that student, but yeah, so there's going to be those students that, and it might be because they came from somewhere else that, you know, I've heard other stories of students that transfer in that school was very traumatic for them for lots of really bad reasons. And so it may not be something we're doing, but how do we, you know, whether even during the, you know, something we cognitively look for why kids are filling it out, but identifying those ones that may be struggling to fill that out, or deliberately filling it, more deliberately filling it out because they think they're supposed to, right?
Right, and I think that our counselors are really good at identifying that during lessons and sort of knowing the students that might be struggling with that. I also think, you know, one thing that they could do during lessons saying, if you don't have a trusted adult right now, that's okay. Our goal is to make sure that you develop, you find a trusted adult during the year. So, you know, because we don't want kids to feel like, you know, if you don't have one right now, there's something wrong with you, you know. So I think, you know, I can talk to them, and I bet that a lot of them are already saying that in their lessons, but I can talk to them about that because we're really just developing this because this hasn't really been done on a
I think it's great. We've always talked about, you know, having that connection map, right?
Yeah. All right, Jim's pushing me along.
No, he's pushing Paul along.
All right. So we already have trusted adult data at the middle and high school level. And what I hope is that by teaching it explicitly at Warren and Mendez, once they get to middle and high school, they'll have that good idea of, okay, I know this question. You've asked it to me every year. I know what this means. So on these charts, we're only looking at the first bar graph on the left for both of them. So you can see this data is just from this fall. This is from the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey, and it's done every other year. So this is just from this fall, and so 69% of females at the middle school said that they have a trusted adult at school that they can talk to about a personal problem, and 63% of males. This is consistent with all of their schools in the Metro West. Same percentages, pretty much. On the green graph, it's broken down by grade level. So it makes a lot of sense that the longer you're at the middle school, by 8th grade, it goes up to 70%. So you're 59% have a trusted adult in 6th grade, 68% in 7th, and then 70 in 8th grade. The longer you're there, the more you're developing relationships with people in the building.
Has this been in previous studies, and are we improving?
Yes, so the next graph is going to show you that.
But can I ask one question on that? Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
The last data point here, talked with a parent, relative, or other adult outside of school.
Yeah. Talked with?
Yeah, so like if I read that literally, and I'm just trying to understand again what it means, that's sort of my kids coming home and talking to me or not. And
So there's an asterisk next to it, Mark, and then you talk about emotional challenges or problems.
Okay, all right, that's,
Yeah.
move along.
Read the fine print.
Okay, so
It's really fine. It's really fine.
all right, so this answers your question, Mr. Kendall. So This shows data for our Ashland students at the middle school from 2006 till 2023. So you can see that 2006, the trusted adult question this is for all students, female and male, 6 to 8, was at 60%. We went up in 2012 to 80%, and then we started to decline until we were at about 60% in 2021. That decline in 2021 was right after the pandemic. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, all schools across Metro West were in that decline because they weren't feeling connected because they weren't in school. You know, all of Metro West schools, I was just at this Metro West meeting last week, so we were able to see everyone's data, have started to go back up. I'm really happy to see that we're going back up. So we're about 69, 70% now. So it's great to see that we're rising. Our kids are feeling that they're belonging more and that they have trusted adults. So that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see it to continue to go up, obviously. I'd love it to go up to 80% again, like it was in 2012, but that's where we need to put in more interventions, and that tells us that we need to do that. So that is what we will do. And then this is the high school data. So you can see there's no difference between the male and female. At the high school, it's 70%. On the green graph, again, the longer that you're in high school, your percentage is going to go up in terms of you having a trusted adult. So it's going up to 77% of students feel they have a trusted adult at school in 12th grade. So that's really positive. And then the next graph is going to show you over time again. So we didn't have a big decline like the middle school graph. We actually kind of had a slight increase over time to 2018, but we had that same dip again for the pandemic, which makes a lot of sense. And then we went up a little bit in 2023. So I think students are starting to.
So just on the question like that Mark was talking about,
yeah.
Can you describe to me what it means? It says, I talked to somebody and it says about emotional challenges. The percentage of what? Is it the percentage of students that said that they talked to somebody about overall, or is it I had an issue and I talked to somebody and that, you know what I mean? Because there's two ways to slice that. Is like, so is going down there a good thing because our kids aren't having the issues, or is going down a bad thing because the ones that are having issues aren't talking to people?
So I didn't really focus on that question because that has nothing to do with a trusted adult. So I don't feel like I can really give you an answer about that right now.
Right.
I can definitely give you an answer
No,
about that.
like I said,
another time.
I just see it going down there where everything else is going up, and so I'm like trying to understand that question, right?
Okay.
Is going down good or bad? I don't know, because if it's, does it mean our students aren't having those issues, or is it meaning that they're having the issues and they're not talking to people? I
We
don't.
certainly can look at the correlation, the actual question, Jen.
Yeah,
at
I
some
would
point,
have to
right?
look at that.
We'd have to look at the
I
question.
didn't.
See how
I
it's
don't
worded.
know what that
Okay.
question exactly
We do
says.
have that right.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
it's not important. I don't want to derail us on it, but I was trying to understand whether.
The data, we certainly can,
Yeah, whether what that meant.
Yeah, I just wasn't focusing on that right now, so I don't
Okay.
want to give you an answer that's not correct.
Yeah, it was the only one that didn't go in the same direction as the other ones generally, right?
Yeah. And then this is going to be a really short slide. So I just wanted to point out that we are starting to train our staff in a trauma-informed teaching approach that really goes along with our responsive classroom. So far, I have trained all the Warren teaching staff and ESPs. Then next year, this is a tier 1 approach. It's all about sort of your teacher being regulated and co-regulating with students. And so we're hoping, we have seen since the pandemic, like a increase in student behaviors and students having a very difficult time being regulated throughout the school day. So that's why we started at Wharton School, because we're really seeing an uptick in that. And Mr. Regan and I wanted to work on that. That's why we started there. And then in the fall, we'll be working with Minda's school and the preschool to train their staff as well. So
I love going in the hallways and seeing the zones of regulation. I always check myself before I
Yeah, right.
figure out where I am before I go into a classroom. So, it's actually great. So,
Okay.
questions for Jen?
Thanks, Jen.
More questions?
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, next up is Sarah. Pitaway School Improvement Plan update. Hello.
Jen, is this your phone? Someone's phone up?
Uh-oh.
Yes, I think it's Emily Riley's. Her husband just texted me and
Oh.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
bring
just
it to
gonna
her.
Okay.
Yeah.
leave it right there.
What
right
about
now.
her?
Thank you.
Thought she had escaped.
You will be my slide assistant, Jen?
I will. I'll be your
okay.
slide assistant.
Perfect.
You
So
just
we've
tell
had
me, go beep. You know what I mean to move.
Okay. We've had a busy year. Our school improvement plan, I think I mentioned, there's just 3 of us. Small and mighty goes along with our small and mighty preschool staff, but we really have done a lot. We picked, I think we called them indicators,
Yep.
right? In each of them. So we, as a staff, spent some time during one of our PDs to identify which indicator we wanted to focus on the new strategic plan. So we kind of picked 2 in each of the sections. They're right there just hitting the 4 major kind of milestones or pillars that we are focused on as a district. And then if you go to the next slide, I'll just kind of hit each one. In equity, we really wanted to focus on establishing our inter-rater reliability, you know, thinking about data in preschool. So much of it is play-based assessments, you know, a drawing of their self-portrait, you know, and how do we calibrate that so we're talking the same about kids in different classrooms? You know, so what is that measurement? Some of it is informal, some of that is calculated and calibrated together to say, okay, we're going to look for 5 defining body parts. We're going to look for sizes of letters when they're learning to write their name in a certain, you know, it's a number of inches or within a prescribed box or area. So we've really worked really hard to look at our informal measures so that we're scoring or talking about children and their performance the same way. Our main form of assessment is Teaching Strategies Gold, which is a great tool for us. We don't utilize the full report. We use about 25 indicators that we track 3 times a year. So our teachers need to participate in about 6 hours of inter-rater reliability courses where they take quizzes to make sure their calibration is good. We talk about those at our curriculum meetings. Jeannie Bernal has been our curriculum leader this year, and she's been really focused on making sure we're all talking the same language and vocabulary as we're looking at student performance and growth. Our big goal this year for me was to kind of align with the Warren and Mendez School to find a way to look at data at the preschool level, not just for the special education students that have IEP goals and objectives that are so data driven, but all of our students. Focusing on student growth, but also class growth, age group, and then overall program, right? So we are, we had 2 data teams. It was a little archaic in how we did it because we haven't yet utilized Open Architects. That's gonna come in the fall. So we made our own pie graph charts by taking all of the individual data from TSG. And it was really cool to look at the growth between December, March, and we did it a little bit early. It's normally June, but we did it in May so we could have our last curriculum meeting looking at that growth. Then as a staff, we could really have good conversations as to where does our instruction need to go if all 4-year-olds seem to be a little bit delayed in X, Y, or Z. So that's kind of helped us springboard into when we get to curriculum, how we've modified and supplemented our curriculum. So next steps for that is we're utilizing Open Architects. Mike has us in touch with finding a way that they can utilize that software, how we've been implementing it, and that will go live for the fall, so we won't have to make our own pie charts for data, and the staff have started to play with it, so it'd be great to look at other forms of assessment for preschool developmentally appropriate measures. We've been working a lot on just data collection and utilizing all of our staff, including our ESPs, and so that will be a big focus for us just across our programming. It'll support the new IEP and our IEP needs, as well as just good instruction and data-driven decisions. We're going to continue to research different assessments, making sure that we can highlight inclusive learning, the differentiation, and then the language support. I should have pulled the percentage, but it's more than half of our families are dual language or multilingual learners in the home. And when you think about 3, 4, and 5, they're learning their home language as well. So it's really happening simultaneously. And what kind of curriculum support can we get in that area? So that will definitely be something we're looking at. Mike's been great at including us in the table for the vertical team meetings when we're looking at new curriculum, and obviously we're gonna hope to continue with that. There's not a lot of preschool boxed curriculum, so thinking about how we can just make sure that we're aligning as much as possible to provide that exposure to the kids that are then gonna have that full time in kindergarten. Question? Okay, I'll just keep going.
No, I'm sorry.
You could stop me at any point for questions, but so the social emotional learning pillar, we really focused on increasing our implementation and integrity of all the many aspects of our SEL kind of curriculum and life. We've got a lot going on at preschool because everything needs to be explicitly taught. We can't assume that they know what the expected behaviors are, what it means to be kind, what it means to be in a line, all of those things. So we continue to utilize our PBIS, that's Bumbles Are Be There, for Be Kind and Be Safe. We also have a few teachers that have been trained in responsive classroom, which aligns with the K-5 model. So they've been workshopping that out with us, and we've been building some PD in there. Jen, 2 years ago, helped us implement zones of regulation and feeling stations, because what's developmentally appropriate at this age is just identifying feelings in ourselves, in stories, those sort of things. So we have a curriculum that starts with us in the fall. And then we also spent probably 3 years looking at a social emotional curriculum to kind of upgrade our second step that the district had been using for the past about 15 years. So we're using Paths, which has some great puppets for talking about different strategies for coping, participation, and just overall social skills. So all of our classrooms taught the zones and the feeling stations. We're in year 1 of Paths, so we'll be boosting that up and really looking at the data from there for their pre and post kind of, not really tests, but just assessments of student participation. And then we've added that into our curriculum map, scope, and sequence. As I said, there's not a lot of pre-K curriculum, so we have a master scope and sequence that all classrooms are using, and then teachers have their own autonomy to put their own flavor on it, but then also differentiate based on the learners in their room. But that's really helped us with the consistency that I can walk through and know what each classroom is working on each week and then see how they modify it for who's in front of them. Feeling safe and supportive in a learning environment, a big part of that was family involvement, and that indicator we focused on bringing back, bless you, all those things from COVID that we weren't able to do, all those great family events. So we hold 2 family events during the school day where we ask families to participate with their child in activities. So that was Fall Fest and Field Day. The PTO also had 4 scheduled play dates over the weekend in our preschool playground space. And we just had, bless you, our end of the year picnic where we had over 225 people. Controlled chaos, huge. It was on the 31st. It was great. So that was a great way to kind of end it. We brought parent coffees back. We had 3 throughout the year with over 20 people participating in each one on various topics. One was about promoting independence at home, like with daily living skills and dressing and feeding and all of that good stuff, getting out of the house in the morning. One was on our PBIS and the expected behaviors and how to explicitly teach that. And then one was about the transition to kindergarten. We have a lot of families new in Ashland that it's their first kids going over and really kind of talking about what that Warren community is. Pete and then Katie Bent, the SPED coordinator over there, came over and we had a great morning of being able to kind of ask any of their worries, put them at ease, and just explain more about the programming over there. Our next steps is trying to find a way, utilizing Jen's support too, of some of that SEL data into our actual data team, so it's not just TSG, so another measurement. We want to continue to work with Mike on the responsive classroom training for teachers and professional development for all of our staff. I think I've said it to all of you before, 2/3 of our staff are ESPs, so finding really important and meaningful PD for them is definitely a focus of us, or for us. And the staff really want to think about finding ways to implement some social skills and lunch bunch groups to get them ready for kindergarten and have some smaller group instruction, not necessarily always having to be from guidance, because we don't have that, but it could be a lunch bunch with me one day, and then a lunch bunch with a speech pathologist or another ESP. So there's just that more social, structured but supportive learning opportunities in the meaningful ways of the fun stuff of lunch or pizza day on Thursdays. Next one is the curriculum and planning. We continue our participation in the vertical teams across the district for the ELA. We've worked a lot with the Warren School on just that transition for all students that have come from Pittaway up to Warren. And then based on the data and what I mentioned, where we were finding that there were maybe some gaps, that our instruction wasn't meeting the needs of all learners, we created small group instruction for all 4-year-old classrooms. And I mandated it throughout the building. We changed the schedule around, we allowed collaborative planning time, and we had focused content areas. So for 2 months, it was literacy-based activities, math-based, and then a cooperative game. Where they had to share resources, build something together, negotiate that, and there was a staff facilitating all of those activities to really kind of be able to provide some good instructional support during that time. So that was great to see. Obviously, growth showed in TSG as we looked at the data team across the board. We developed a building-based PD plan for the year. We have the benefit of having our ESPs here with us during parent-teacher conferences, which is great. That's an extra 9 hours of PD. So we do a lot of workshop-based learning on behavior management, de-escalation, social skills, the road shows from all the other directors and administrators, and that really builds the capacity of all of our educators in the building so that kids can be supported in any and all situations or experiences. Mike helped us bring in some PD to do some responsive classroom strategies, which is really important for our ESPs because they're in the classrooms all day, and really having an understanding on why these community meetings are really important and why we want to build the community at this young age so that they feel connected to be able to find their trusted adult and so on as they get older. So next steps is continuing to work with Mike on a multi-year PD plan. The big thing for us, obviously, is the new IEP. Improving our data collection to be able to guide our instruction as we move forward. And resource management. This year we focused on, the safety of the environment. We've increased our training and practices with the emergency response drills, with the safety committee. We added some speakers to our PA system. We have a pretty old PA system at Pittaway now that we're officially the oldest building in school building in Ashland. So we obviously need to do some upgrades now that we're going to be there for a little while, or we know we're going to be there for a little while. And we have obtained some supplemental funding for our gross motor curriculum and recess equipment, so that will allow us to increase inclusive play and access for everyone, both inside and outside. That's been through support through our preschool PTO. They have their own PTO. They've done a lot of fundraising for us, a BAA community grant as well, and one of the Flutie communication boards that Tiffany Berry got for the Kids Spot, she also just got for us at the preschool. So that will be displayed soon, which will be great for communication and language access. Next steps is continuing the building safety assessment. We're getting some new doors this summer through the capital plan, and just making sure that we're keeping up with the general maintenance of an old building, but also meeting the needs of all of our learners. We have a lot of learners that we just need to make sure are fully inclusive and can access in a meaningful way our spaces, both in the building and outside. We're continuing the ALICE training, you all know that, as part of the district, and soon we're going to campaign for some kind of playground surface, removal of the big structure, just trying to figure out how we can make that outdoor space more supportive. Reasons to celebrate, we've had over 85% participation in all of our whole school events from families, whole families, grandparents. I mean, some families came to the picnic with 8 or 9 family members, so it was a big event. We've increased access to family communication through the S'mores newsletter, the talking points, and the parent coffees. A lot of feedback is parents didn't know that they could be involved in school. For whatever reason, it's their first experience. So really like spending that time to talk to them, to say, no, we want you involved. We want you to come in. This week, they're doing all the summer birthdays. So it's like I'm seeing parents multiple times a day coming in for August and July birthdays saying, I never thought that we would celebrate those things. So it's great to see their involvement. I mentioned the PTO. They've been phenomenal for us with enrichment activities. In the end of the year picnic was definitely the highlight. If you drove by, it probably looked a little chaotic. I think Mike was like, how many people are you expecting? And I was like, well, the RSVP is quite high, but it worked out. Establishing the data teams was a huge hurdle for us to get us thinking about more just about play, that it can still be play-based learning, but we can measure it and we can use it to guide our practice. And you know, just continuing our collaborative efforts with the district and community partners. We started bringing back like a dentist during Dental Health Week and bringing those things back that we hadn't done since COVID, really. So that was great. Community was very open and welcoming it. Any questions? Thoughts? I could talk about it forever.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sounds amazing.
Do you want the phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was probably going to forget it too. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next up is the Mendez School Improvement Plan update. Hello, Jenna.
I don't want this. I want to share this.
So thank you so much for having me. As I report out on the progress we've made this year, I want to just start by saying that the staff at Mendez is positively fantastic, and all the work we did this year was truly the work of everybody with all hands on deck. So I just want to acknowledge the wonderful place that started all this work. Equity. So our goal this year was to develop a shared understanding of equity and culturally responsive teaching and learning, which sounds like a big thing to bite off, and it really was a bit daunting. But fortunately, we were able to work with Adaptive X, which is an agency that coaches and works with different districts to help provide coaching around culturally responsive teaching and learning. So we had two coaches that worked with us. We had a leadership-based team at the school, which included the school counselor, Kate, the assistant principal, Christy Arnold, and Jen Taylor were able to help and come over and participated as well. And we had, I think, 4 full PD training days for us. And we translated that into developing a 4-part series for our teachers, where we just did a really light exploration of what it means to be culturally responsive. So we spent 4 sessions, one talking about identity, one talking about implicit bias and the danger of a single story, and then a jigsaw where people chose what they wanted to learn about. The whole coaching point was for me to be constantly modeling the way teachers should be working with children, so offering agency and choice, differentiation, and different levels of what was presented. And then the final activity was an opportunity for people to work together to synthesize the information and to present a final project. And that's what you see up in the top corner. We posted them in the school so people could reflect on the work that everyone had done. And a lot of the feedback that I got anecdotally from the teachers was positive. They were invested in the conversations. They were broken into small groups to do the work. So it felt really good. The 4th grade teachers also had a professional goal this year to survey their libraries and to make certain that they had what we call the windows and the mirrors for the students to see themselves in the literature. So they've got a wish list of books that they would like to include. But it was really exciting that they did that all on their own. So I feel like the staff is buying in. So for next year, we're looking to continue our work with Adaptive X. We're going to tie in, there's a book called Being the Change. We're going to tie in some of the lessons in there into our community learning, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. And we're going to develop specific lessons and responses to when we have children using inappropriate language in school. So they'll have to, it'll be sort of like an adult module where they'll have to read a little bit about the history of what it is that they're saying or doing, and then take a little online quiz. And then we'll share that with the parents at home so everybody understands what's happening and what we're doing to address it. And then we're going to explore disabilities, visible disabilities and invisible disabilities, and the impact that it has on our learners. Because often we need to just take a minute and reflect on the whole child and figure out where they're coming from before we can make real progress in the learning. So that's the equity piece. So social and emotional learning. So we had our nature's classroom trip on Monday with the fifth grade, which was really excellent. And I was walking with a student, we were kind of behind the trail, and I said to him, what is it, your favorite thing about Mendez? You're in fifth grade, you've nothing to lose, tell me what you like or don't like. And he said to me, I just like being a Mendez kid. And I paused a little bit and I thought, well, what is he saying? Does he not know how to answer the question? I didn't know what he meant. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I just like being a Mendez kid. And I said, so you just like being a part of the school and being a member of the community? And he said, yes, that's exactly it. And I wish I had recorded it because that's exactly what we've been striving for. And it was just great to hear that from a student. But we did this year, we do very many community meetings, but we also added something called the community learning. And the idea was to get a cross-section of children from different grades in keeping with the notion that we're going to have multi-age learning that goes on at Mendez. And every month you met with your new class for an hour. And we developed a schedule of events that was going to happen. And we did a lot of conversing with the staff to find out what we could improve on as we went through. Because we had a couple of activities that weren't group activities, and that didn't seem as valuable because if we're trying to build community, don't do a portrait kind of thing. So we have some new ideas for next year going forward. And I think that we're definitely going to continue to do it. So that's exciting.
Quick question for you, Jenna.
Yeah.
Will the kids who were together this year, like the third and fourth graders, will they still be part of the same multi-age community next? Like, will those kids stay together as they age through?
That's the plan. And it'll get trickier with the movement, but they can do it. One thing I've learned about the Mendez students this year is they can do anything. The symposium, they all went all the places they needed to go, so it'll be great. And the trusted adult, which is such an interesting theme that seems to be coming across tonight. So that was part of our specific goal. So this was interesting. We asked the adults, did they feel the children formed connections? So next year we're going to be asking the children. So we flipped it. And we do need to think about what about those 6% that we're not sure about.
So is this question like going to each classroom teacher and asking them about the individual students and the individual students in their classrooms, and this is the percentage of the individual students that they don't think have a, or are they just, this is just a general?
That's a great question. This was a general survey, and one of the questions was, as a result of community learning, do you think your children made it? There was nothing quantitative.
Okay.
So,
Because it would be interesting to do it, like we're asking students, but in elementary, you have the opportunity to say, hey, I know these 20 kids. Do I think that and be able to say, I think Mike has some issues here, that he doesn't feel that he belongs. Right? Not that Mike,
I've done it in the past too, where you have a picture of each child and the adult writes whether or not they're connected to the kiddo. And then you have the cards at the end and you can say, these are the children that have no adults on their card, so what are we going to do about it? So that's another way to flip it and look at it. Community service at Mendez. This was better than I thought. I was really nervous about how this was going to go and what the buy-in was going to be like. So I got a couple fourth grade volunteer teachers to help me develop this, and each classroom had the opportunity. I worked with each classroom and we did a mock application for jobs, and they all applied and then they got assigned their jobs. And for some kids, that's why they came to school that day, because they got to be the morning greeter. So they really looked forward to it, so I'm excited about expanding it next year. The fifth grade, with Carolyn Barrow's guidance, they did morning announcements on a video, so she used the green screen in the new lab, and they made the daily announcements. And they were really, really cute and really well done. So next year, I'm hoping the third grade will become the garden club, because we have a lot of places where we could be pulling weeds and watering and taking care of our environment.
Put those kids to work.
Yeah, say take care of that new building.
Yeah,
Community
I'd have them
service
cleaning the floor
at
if I
its
could.
best.
But.
Love it.
Resource management. So, yes, the new building is amazing. Nothing seems to be too challenging at the moment. We continued with our practice fire drills and our evacuation drills and our active shooter drills. All of those were done for the first time. So we were strategic in having police and fire join us and give us feedback. And I thank Mike for leading that charge, so that we knew where we had problems and we've been able to rectify them in terms of how we evacuate. We've developed and refined plans for all of our transitions throughout the day, and we will continue to work on that for next year. And the playground's been amazing, just amazing. Curriculum and programming. So our goal for this year was to implement data team meetings and to not introduce, but to continue to focus on small group instruction. And I have got to give this to Kate Altman, who organized and implemented 18 data meetings to review ELA progress, set goals, and monitor progress. They were truly an opportunity for teachers to come together and discuss children's progress and to look at where we needed to improve. And from that information, they were able to make small groups and determine how to best go about targeted instruction. We had 6 data team meetings to review math, MCAS, and to set goals. And we had 2 data team meetings that looked specifically at EL progress. So we were all very excited about that. And next year's goals are to implement math and to implement ST math for our curriculum and planning. So a big year. Lots went on.
Thank you.
Big year.
Any questions?
Any questions? Good stuff.
Thank you, Jenna.
Great.
Thanks,
you.
Jenna. All right, student services update. Very patient, Brittany. Thank you for hanging in there with us all this time.
We just came from our unified track and field banquet at the cafeteria
Nice.
today. Coach Sanford and myself took the lead this year. So it was a really awesome opportunity. I think unfortunately the coach from last year, respectively decided to spend some time with their family, but I didn't want to see the program kind of fall away. So I was able to convince Josh, told him to help me, and all of the other coordinators, including Sarah, did as much as they could to come and help out. A parent duo, I refer to them as Coach Mom and Dad, Greg and Christine Caveney, came to every single practice and were incredibly supportive, so couldn't ask for a better community in that regard. Was that enough pause time for you, Jim?
No, I'm sorry. It's already up there.
Yeah, okay.
Right under the
I just
bus.
had it
Yeah.
in the file, in Gretchen's file.
Found it.
Yeah, it's there, it's just, I don't know why this is showing up differently. For the love of God.
So
Uh-oh,
you just bent the whole screen.
yeah.
Oh, here.
Well, how, I
There we
mean,
go.
There.
okay.
No, that's just Brittany.
Just got it.
I'm just going to talk. So the focus of this year's development was the 18 to 22 program, which, for a cohort of 3 students, you might think that, it should be easy. But being in a former district where my special education classroom was a grade 9 to 12 classroom, that was the program that would feed some of the students into the transition program, for lack of a better term, I saw not an ineffective development of the program, but it was like, if you have a space, it'll be great, you'll be fine. So it was great to have that experience and know that so much more needed to go into it to ensure that these 3 kiddos, young adults, are coming into this program with community connections, job placements, a curriculum, everything that you could possibly think of in terms of kitchen materials, right? So a set of 12 for serving, where we're going to host parents and families to come in, once a month, and it will be an event for both staff that maybe we'll invite other, members of our community to attend, the stakeholders that are partnering with us for the businesses. I did a lot of research in terms of an effective curriculum to use. Some of the research included visiting some of our current out-of-district placements where our students are to see what their transition age programs were using. From that, the standout curriculum was the PACE curriculum, which is a fully, it looks at the entire scope and sequence of any individual life. So whether it be relationship building, hygiene, the importance of attendance on a job, internet safety, banking, all of those things. So with some of the funding that I requested for fiscal 24-5, we are going to be purchasing that curriculum. During the development of this program, I met every 6 weeks, just about. I missed a meeting because I forgot to roll it over, and thank goodness the moms on the committee were really helpful about reminding me if I made a misstep, to get their input. What do they think they need? What do they think they want their young adult to have to lead a healthy, successful life? Some of those things being community, relationships at a fitness center or a music program, doing those leisure skill activities that sometimes can be hard to find those specific connections with. And embedded in the curriculum, there's actually an entire unit or two on establishing those preferred leisure activities, because sometimes, as everybody knows, the technology piece of what we do is just an easy, accessible, on-demand thing that is entertaining for not just our young adults, but all of us, right? So looking at more holistic leisure activities to get students out and involved in their communities and active. The best part about housing the 18 to 22 program on campus is it makes that access to our unified sports programs that much more accessible for these students. While it's always open to our out-of-district students, just like anything, right, where they can participate in the things that we do, they'll be able to do that seamlessly here. So it's really exciting. I imagine as students get closer to 22, we might be looking at different capacities, right? Maybe you're a coach, maybe you're an assistant captain of some kind, where you're not necessarily participating on the team any longer, because we'll have freshmen on the team, and a 14 to 22-year-old is a little bit different, right? And not something that all students will be necessarily comfortable with, but working in a capacity to foster, roles of empowerment for our young adults as they transition year to year. We did, that's really, that's just I'm going to do what I want, the first page. Okay. Yep. Really. The next few are really just everything I said about the development, the steps that we took, really making sure that we were checking in the entire time with all stakeholders, community members, and job placements for our students that have been absolutely phenomenal. As I said a little bit earlier, we continued with the high school and middle school implementation of unified sports. I'd love to see unified track be brought to the middle school in the next, hopefully, year or two. Now living through it as a coach, I did it in my previous district, but knowing what it looks like here and some of the logistics makes it a little bit more easier to think about what that looks like at the middle school level. We participated in the Five-Town Special Olympics Day at Millis this year, which was hosted outside, which caused a lot of alarm initially, I think, for everybody. I did a lot of later evening drive-bys of the space just to make sure that we were fully prepared for our students. And, Jim, Mike, and everybody who participated could certainly attest. It was a beautiful day, perfect weather, and there wasn't a single issue that you could really possibly have. It was just a perfect day.
They were nervous.
Oh, yeah. I was nervous.
Bob was like, oh.
Yeah. Is that how he said it, too? Okay.
That's how he said it.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I visited, multiple local 18 to 22 programs that have established community placements, so not housed in any of the school buildings, but off campus with, fully self-sustained businesses for our kiddos. Thinking about all of the intricacies of that, it's not something that will be on the table next year. I don't know how to run a business. Actually, I did run a business, but I don't know how to develop one in a community in a program. So, Chris. Just kidding. No, okay, maybe Chris. So we also really looked at some of the community kind of training prerequisites for the students. Like we purchased 2 task boxes, if you will, that are like a box on the go to support students as we identify job placements. I only purchased 2 because I really feel like we could probably find somebody who has an expertise in a certain area and say, what do you need to do this job? Go purchase all of the things and let's put a box together and really train our kiddos with that way. We continued to, I skipped one. I made a special education process handbook that really outlines all of our procedures. I think Sarah and I can attest I made it. I don't know how, I just kind of put it all together, and we haven't formally thoroughly reviewed it as a group. My goal is to hyperlink all of the forms that we need in our department in that handbook, so everything is accessible to everybody, one-stop shop, everything that you need, especially if you're a new employee in this district. Where's that form for that? Well, click the handbook and now you have it. So I'm excited about that. It's just going to be a work in progress. We have continued to translate our documents, and, you know, Sarah, I keep talking to you because, you know, hey, it's us. I think that I've found that the turnover it's immediate, right? We're not sending the documents to an outside agency and waiting. We're providing that equity that everybody's speaking to today and making sure that all of our families are getting the documents on demand. In the 2 years that we've been doing this, it's an estimated over $180,000 savings just from doing it internally, and we haven't had a single family reach out or express concern with what has been provided in the meetings, where they're also being provided with that opportunity to have an interpreter. So I would say 2 years in, it's successful. I mean, you haven't heard anything, have you? No. That's great. The summer camp schedule, we're going to continue to run with a theme where everybody will be doing the same thematic structure, week 1 through 5 in summer camp. Erin Drake has worked with me to develop grade level curriculum that is accessible to all the teachers. In part, you know, we want to ensure we're not, we have the materials to support students not regressing and having access to the content that's continually being provided for them when they return. So having that starting point has been huge, especially when you have teachers that we hire, even if it's internally, that may not work with grade level 3 students, but work at the middle school. So what does that look like? So alleviating some of that transition and that navigation in terms of how do I teach a 3rd grade classroom? I'm sure you all know and can figure it out, but it's nice to have those same materials on demand. We've contracted with Alan Bloom to support us in more effective goal writing that hopefully will be linked to more data-driven documentation and approaches to make sure that we find the most supportive ways to progress monitor our students, but also can support our staff in that process. So he will be coming on one of the first professional development days for the district and meeting with all of our staff. We're very excited to be working with him. I've also looked at the application goal book, which from what I've heard is a very supportive online data mechanism for this that really helps you look at a profile of a student, establish a goal, and individually tailor that goal to the student, which, yes, we obviously all do, but it looks at the data that you're inputting and it supports the progress monitoring piece, which I think is huge. Marlboro Public Schools was shared with me as a district that has used it as close to locally as possible, so Goalbook is linking me up with their not reps, but the director and the individuals that are using it there, so I can spend some time really learning about the nuances and troubles that they've maybe had navigating the application prior to the start of the school year. That's really it. That's it. Yeah.
That's all.
The rest of your time?
I don't, you know, I was just thinking about it. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
No. One quick shout out to Tina. You've attended every AshPAC meeting with us. We can't thank you enough for having your representation there. It's really been great for me to have you as a co-person, you know, and when questions come up, it's just been really great to have you there and to support that transparency that we're working to establish with that parent group. Yeah, good job, Mark.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Tina.
Yeah, thank you.
So maybe one question
Yep.
for you. I know we went through not too long ago the budget process and you thought about things, but now that you spent a lot of time going over and doing the reviews of things, and you obviously have a lot of things in mind about. Is there anything else that we can do, either financially or other supports that you're looking, maybe even it's not next year, but the year after, that we should have on our radar for helping support?
Transportation, I know Kevin and I very briefly talked about having a larger capacity, not full-blown yellow school bus available to us, but a smaller transportation system that could be shared potentially between athletics and the program. Currently we'll be using the electric vehicle, which will be great for the cohort that we have in the lead teacher, but in the years to come that's not going to work. So with thought, knowing I'll have a year to kind of think about that and what it looks like, so that'll be on deck for a research project for me for next year. I don't know how much money that will cost, but we'll figure it out. Anything else?
It would be interesting to see. We can't do it at scale, but I know like the federal, that federal funding that we're going to get the rebates for. Part of that is busing, electric busing, and things like that. It wouldn't work at scale for us, but I wonder whether even something like that would would be an opportunity for something on a smaller scale to, whether that would work or not, but.
Yeah, there's actually conversation within the superintendent's group to try to work together to actually get funds for numerous districts with regards to fleets, electric fleets.
Thank you all so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, Brittany.
Happy
We
summer.
appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Y'all are free. Free as a bird.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Student activity accounts, is that you, Chris?
No,
Oh,
actually,
is that you?
sorry, I just didn't
Oh.
get a chance at the beginning of the meeting. We're gonna push that off
Oh, okay.
until the summer.
Cool.
When we have all of the activity accounts reconciled, and we'll just do it all at once, as
Okay.
opposed to bringing a batch now and bringing a batch in the summer. So we will skip over that section right now.
Awesome.
Save you 38 seconds, but it's fine.
We'll take it.
Chris is like, this is the quickest part of it.
We will take it.
So we'll move that until the summer.
All right. Well,
Shaving seconds.
Yeah, that's what we do. And Chris does his part.
It actually took longer for him to explain why.
Right, it's true. 100%, but I did want to explain.
all right, so we're up to the superintendent's evaluation now that the room has cleared out. This for the public, anybody who might be watching, we do this every year. It's one of our 3 main jobs as school committee members is to evaluate the superintendent, and the law requires us to do it publicly. So that's what I am about to do. We follow a process, same process every year, and we set goals in the beginning of the year that get set. The chair and vice chair sit down with the superintendent. We come up with some proposals for goals. We work it out with the entire school committee. We settle on some goals. We vote on them, and then Mr. Adams is rated on his performance on the goals, as well as a rubric that we follow through the Massachusetts State Superintendent Evaluation. So, thank you, everybody, for getting your evaluations to me. Everybody completed the evaluation, and I'll do as I do every year, everyone has their copy. Mr. Adams has been given his copy, and I will read the explanation of the findings, as well as this covers a lot of the comments that were made by the entire committee. This is the consolidated opinion of the committee, is how it works. Everybody submits their personal recommendation to the evaluation to the chair. Mr. Adams will have an opportunity to look at those, but the formal evaluation is the evaluation of the committee. And so these comments reflect what the majority of the committee decided. And hopefully everybody does feel like your comments were represented. But if not, we'll have some time for discussion afterwards. Okay? Okay. You good? You ready? It's his favorite part of the year. He loves this. Superintendent Adams continues to be a talented and dedicated leader of the Ashland School District. As a district, we are fortunate to have Jim at the helm, as he is a compassionate leader, has high standards for staff and students, and leads with integrity. Mr. Adams embodies a professional culture that puts people first and fosters an environment where everyone feels supported and valued. This helps to attract and retain talented, dedicated people. Jim's skilled approach to relationships extends to the unions, town officials, the school committee, staff, and community. Jim has empowered his administrative and operational staff to be a high-functioning team, committed to maintaining high standards across the school district. In particular, Jim and his team executed a successful opening of a brand-new school while the finishing touches were being completed. A preventative operations maintenance was thought out and put into place to ensure safeguarding of the new asset. There have been several key accomplishments this year, including the opening of the new Mendez School, the successful negotiation of 4 union contracts, the adoption of a new strategic plan, the attention and efficiency with our budget. Several goals were met, including the reduction of chronic absenteeism at the high school, implementation of the multi-tiered system of support at the Warren School, as well as visual math instruction program, continued focus on internal special education programs, implementation of iReady diagnostic initiatives in the elementary and middle schools, and the completion of multiple capital projects. Jim and his team are committed to continuous improvement by regularly assessing and refining strategies to achieve academic success. This past year, they partnered with Open Architects to create dashboards to track and measure student iReady test scores throughout the year. Using this data informed decision-making and teaching strategies to improve classroom instruction and focus. Jim routinely looks at district costs and is consistently monitoring the cost effectiveness of programs and initiatives to maximize value, as evidenced by creation of several internal special education programs to bring students back into the district from outplacements and reduce the number of students who need services outside the district. Jim is also a thoughtful leader who is open to feedback and realizes that even when we're doing a great job in many areas, there is always room for improvement. Some of the work that school committee members would like to see further developed include continued development of age-appropriate community service programs in each building and optimization of our communication capabilities by focusing on accomplishing the strategic goals we identified in this area but have not yet met. The school district rolled out a standardized communication plan which uniformly distributes information to the Ashland community. Jim and his team value community input and utilize various methods, including but not limited to surveys, curriculum nights, parent conference, and school committee meetings to encourage active participation and feedback from the community. Progress has been made to standardize communications, but the strategic element of what we have been trying to achieve needs to be addressed. During Jim's tenure in Ashland, he has always prioritized the well-being of students, staff, and administrators. He leads by example in this area. Jim's leadership during trying times has been steadfast. The committee very much appreciates Mr. Adams and his leadership and is grateful he continues to choose Ashland. He has met the goals we have set, and ratings for this year include, there are 4 standards, and the first standard is curriculum. I don't know the exact title of it, instructional leadership. And Mr. Adams was found to be proficient in instructional leadership, management and operations, exemplary, family and community engagement, proficient, and professional culture, exemplary. And because there were 2 proficient ratings overall and 2 exemplary ratings overall, I just dug a little bit further into the data to come up with, had to decide whether the overall rating was going to be proficient or exemplary, because it was, just so you all know my process, because it was sort of 50-50, although, you know, the majority of the committee, their overall rating of the majority was exemplary, and when I broke down the data with the subcategories, you moved into the exemplary category. So we are pleased to present you with that rating. We are very grateful for you, Jim, and not just what you do for Ashland, but I think we all, you know, have a personal relationship with you that we value. We've built a lot of trust together. We work well together. You've assembled an administrative team that we really respect and enjoy working with as well, and that also do a lot of things for this district. And I just want to thank you, and I'm going to open it up to everybody else to either offer something that I may have missed or to add your additional thoughts.
I just would echo them. You know, I think thank you seems to be like the best I can come up with at the moment. You know, I think everything that Lori has summarized is spot on. You know, you're an excellent leader of this district and a leader in this community. I think we're very fortunate to have you.
I'll just say ditto. Thank you for all that you do. I won't elongate it anymore, but we appreciate you and are grateful to have you at the helm of our district.
Yeah, I think for me, this is year 8 or 9 I've done these, and so we always, you know, it's a repetitive thing. It seems to be that you're good at your job, and this reflects it. And I think, you know, to echo them, we're all fortunate that you're here. I think the rubrics allow us to, you know, grade you in certain ways, but I think one of the things that I you know, think you should be most proud of is some of the professional or personal growth you've had this year has been the fact that we moved the district forward as much as we did with you know, and you've been able to accomplish all that. It's been something you should be very proud of, and so appreciate all your efforts.
You get to say something if you'd like.
Well, I don't want to say much for an hour, but no, it's. I think whenever we have conversations about the things we do well and/or the accomplishments we have, it's really, you know, Mike and I have these conversations, and Chris. It's the team we've assembled, right? I think that's probably what I'm most proud of, because the data or the goals that are being accomplished are really being accomplished by the folks who are in the buildings, right? And the directors who are putting forth that daily effort to ensure that the strategic plan is being followed, or as we're trying to meet the goals that we set and the initiatives we set. So I think, you know, I'm really most proud of that component of what we have set. I think there are challenging times working for me and with me. There's no doubt about it. I'm really excited about our future. I'm excited for Erin LaChapelle. If you were at graduation and you just see the amount of love and commitment and passion that she has for Ashland and the kids and the families, that's what the middle school is going to be getting. And to me, I look at it and say that is the quintessential middle school principal in that relationship building in probably the toughest 3 years of a growth of a child. And so those are the things I'm proud of, right? That we've built internally folks who can move from one building to another. Brittany, whether she was special ed coordinator, into the role of the director of student services, right? Those are things that I think I reflect upon and say, hey, we're making progress because of the team we've assembled. And the goals, the work that's being done is really being done by them. My job, I've always said this, my job is to support them and to relieve any, you know, stressors that they may have so they can do their job. Similarly, I think as a principal should remove all the stress from a teacher so they can do their job well. And if we follow those sets of rules, that's when we're successful. I think publicly I want to state, and Lori did this earlier, with Michelle retiring, it's a new opportunity with new leadership, but I'm most proud of that too, right? The connection, you know, Lori, you mentioned 4 union contracts. Hopefully tonight we'll ratify the 5th. But those relationships are, again, not just the team we've built, but I think the relationships that we've been able to forge as an admin team with our unions is what has really driven our district forward. There's a lot of trust and faith in one another, and that's pretty important. Thank you for your thoughtfulness and you know, words of kindness. But I think I said this last year. It's my job, so I thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, you do it well. And we're lucky to have you, so thanks. We're not done, though.
No. Got a couple things
Do you have an update, Mike?
I'll probably give a really nice long update over the summer.
Oh,
which
good.
will
Okay.
encompass the year.
But
But
you were
there-
going to say tonight. I was
but there are a couple things I wanted to say tonight because, you know, just to get out there. One of the things in particular that I'm really happy about is that this year we have decided to move forward with our freshmen being allowed to take geometry CP2 as freshmen. And I think that's something that we've talked about for a number of years and, you know, worked hard with our math curriculum leadership team. And it's one of those things that I think deserves to be said publicly, that we've agreed to take on this challenge. And I'm proud of the high school for being willing to take on this challenge, and I'm proud of the middle school for advocating to get there, and really glad to see this change happen. I think it's a real positive thing for our district, and I look forward to seeing how those students progress.
If I could say on that, Mike, I think it's great news. I mean, for all of us who've gone through that transition with one or more children, whether it affects your own children or others, it is a significant point, or has been historically, a significant point of concern and frustration for many, many parents who see their children basically doing the same thing in 9th grade as they had done in 8th grade. And when their kids, you know, weren't in a position necessarily or weren't ready for the challenge of moving to the honors level geometry, it felt like a lost year for a lot of people. And I think we're resolving that point of pain moving forward, and that's great news.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy that we're doing it, and it was one of those things that I set off that goal this year, and I'm glad that it happened.
Awesome.
You know, in our our principals have touched on so many of these things, but the implementation, the full implementation of iReady this year has really been a success. Looking forward to sort of digging into that data really deep to see the growth that has happened throughout the year. Now we have our beginning of the year data to our end of the year data, and I've already started that process. I had a long conversation already with Kathy Ferecchia today, talking not only the Dibbles but the iReady to see where we are. And again, I told you I look forward to being able to sort of dig into that with you this summer during a longer presentation. Obviously, Dibbles as well completed that. We continue to partner with the Ashland Public Library. Our lists will be with them for our summer reading. There's a nice relationship there that has continued. And the other course that's going to be happening next year, which is exciting, is we're going to have a new English learner, beginning English learner course for biology at the high school next year. So we're proud of that as well, to allow our students to gain access in a new way to make sure that they're ready to ultimately take the MCAS, but to provide a good opportunity that's going to be collaborative between our English learning department and our science staff. And they're going to be working on that this summer during the curriculum writing. The successful implementation of Amplify for science at the middle school was something to be proud of. And then obviously folks talked today about open architecture. You know that we've talked about that throughout the year. And even as Sarah was speaking, I was pulling up a dashboard to show Jim, we've got this at our fingertips. She was talking about the specific data. It's there. I can pull it up in seconds. And it's really wonderful to be able to know that. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about graduation. What a special moment to watch my first graders walk across the stage. I was talking with folks that these kids are extra special to me. They're the first graders. I had them in second grade, and then I met them again along their journey in fifth grade. So next year becomes that first year of students that sort of followed along the path all the way. But just a wonderful ceremony. The class day was wonderful as well. We have some really talented young men and women in our midst, and just so much to be proud of. And it was just this sense of, I can imagine what I'll feel like in a few years when my own child is graduating, and I can imagine what you two felt watching your own children, because I felt like they were mine this year, and the sense of pride to watch those kids walk across the stage was just really special. So,
Indeed.
Yeah, I will say that in my house, you got rave reviews for the manner in which you presented each of the children, the energy with which you did, and your ability to pronounce names of many different languages and origins. And I shared this with my dad, my stepmother in particular, who were commenting on it, and I said, these are kids he knows, and explained sort of the history you just shared. And obviously, very special day for a couple of us who had kids walking the stage, but it's always a special day. I always, it's my favorite day of this gig is graduation day, and seeing where kids are going next, and that they've grown into like real life people,
Right, and it brings it all together, like why we all do what we do.
And to see them having their next opportunity. I talk about it with my son. It's like, this is the part you don't get the control over. You get to pick the next thing, and to seeing what all these kids who have gone through our schools are able to choose to do, right? Because of the experiences they've had here, they have other opportunities to now become a little bit more of what they want to be. And that path goes on for life, but it's just always a special day, and just thank you for your role in it too. So.
Ditto. We actually had the same conversation in my house, how it was evident that each one of those kids, that you got to announce their names, that you knew them. You had smiles on your face, and just looking at the pictures, I mean, we were lucky enough to present the diplomas to our own kids, so of course I got 1,000 pictures, and in every one of them, the smile on your face was bigger than the smile on my, like, almost. Like, it was pure joy and real, it helped really foster that sense of community, which was really nice. It was evident that you knew all of them.
You got a lot better pictures than I did.
Too. It was really nice, to feel that connection. And our students always impress me, but it's so exciting, to hear about what they're doing after high school, but to hear all that they accomplished in high school, like the accolades and the awards and the the conversation about what good people they are. I mean, it was just really, it was really nice. Obviously, super heartwarming as a parent, but very, very, made me very proud as a school committee member too.
Thank you.
I guess I'll keep mine to the business aspect of things. Keep it real short and sweet too there. Just as we head into the summer months, we're really, I think, probably 80% of the way done on our hiring for next year. At least with the retirements that have occurred. We filled just about 90% of those, I would say, but we have some positions that we approved, such as the 18 to 22-year-old program Brittany was talking about, the Bright program at the high school. I think we've got the major components done. We have a school adjustment counselor hired, as well as a lead teacher for the 18 to 22 program. So those are two really major roles that we're able to fill. We're still working at filling a couple roles at the middle school, as well as the dean position at the high school. That's the struggle. I didn't get a lot of congratulations from the high school staff when I walked through the building about taking Aaron, but but they were like, Jim, you made a great choice. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But graduation, as always, this was my 15th in Ashland. It was great to see. I want to let you know I'm thinking of investigating finding a place where we can actually have graduation where there's a little more controlled climate. This is the second of the last 3 years where we've had, whether it's at night or during the 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, where it's really oppressive in there. Although we do have the auditorium available to folks, they prefer to be there watching it live in person, but it does come with some struggles. And as our class size is getting to 230 to 240 range, it's going to be even more challenging. So we are in the process of looking at, are there options for us locally where we could potentially have graduation in a more climate-controlled environment, and or what are some potential capital projects that might help us at the high school as well. I know John Murray's always looking at cost-effective measures, but also programs that are out there in terms of providing funding to create climate-cooled buildings.
I mean, looking at that for the gym would makes sense from a community perspective.
100%.
That's an asset that
Right.
we can't really leverage in the summer.
Right, people are there
Those
watching
are just
games,
things.
I know
there's stuff
Cindy
going on now.
Livingston would really appreciate it
I know.
on certain days of the year.
Right, but those are things that, as we move forward, we will have those conversations at the summer workshop. Just FYI, I mean, I've asked John to come and talk about some of the things that he's looking into for us. But again, kudos to Kelly and the staff and to all the families and yeah, it is. It's nice to see, the wide range of things folks are doing when they leave our school system, whether it's work, military, college, gap years. It's impressive, and you don't quite notice it until you sit there and you talk to people, and it's the highlight for me was actually sitting with Nathan. I told Mike this story. Is he and I are sitting there talking, and he said, Mr. Adams, I just want to ask you one question. I said, yeah, what is it? How do you call a snow day? I've been really wondering how you actually do this. So
He's that smart and he hasn't figured it
well,
out yet.
I said, this is how we do it.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, he's
Right,
like,
right.
yeah. And it was just pretty funny. He's like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know. And I told him the process.
That was great.
And he's like, okay, at least you take a lot of different perspectives. Yeah, so it was great.
Yeah, well, you haven't been doing I don't know if
No,
you
the
tweeting.
tweet, yeah.
Stopped
I've sort of, he asked about that too.
Yeah.
And actually, I was walking down to class day as a couple junior girls, were right behind me. Mr. Adams, you don't tweet anymore during snow days, and we have to go an extra day. I said, well, blame the guy who called a snow day this year. Just blame me. Go ahead, it's okay. But yeah, I'm boycotting X a little bit, so as they call it.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. All right, next up, Paul, you weren't here at the last meeting, so we could not do warrant approvals. Do you have them?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have two sets of.
Okay.
I have two blurbs I have to read. So between May 9th, 2024 and May 22nd, 2024, I, Paul Kendall, authorized by my signature payables in the amount of $621,003.61. This includes general fund expenses of $558,012.46, revolving expenses of $59,333.25, grant expenses of $3,585, and meals tax expenses of $72.90. And then between May 23rd, 2024 and June 11th, 2024, I, Paul Kendall, authorized by my signatures, payables in the amount of $432,563.67. This includes general fund expenses of $257,603.91, revolving expenses of $169,147.42, and grant fund expenses of $5,812.34.
Thank you.
No idea why I have to always read this, but that's what they make us do.
Just do as you're told. Gifts and donations?
Yeah, we have a couple. Planet Aid, $337.40, miscellaneous gifts and donations. The BAA Invitational, Ashland Community Grant for $2,500, gifting for new preschool playground equipment. Preschool PTO matching the BAA grant of $2,500 as well for the playground equipment. And the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation, $1,150, gifting preschool playground communication board for a total of $6,487.40.
Wonderful. Do you have a motion to accept the gifts and donations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Minutes from May 22nd. Anybody have anything on the minutes? Does anyone have a motion to accept the minutes?
You do that one.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, anybody have any member updates? Want to start, Paul?
I'm sure there's things I should say, but
You don't really have to.
I did notice, I was going to say earlier when Jim mentioned, congratulations to Aaron for the new position, but I did notice that, I think I made a comment to you, is how many genuine embraces that were occurring, not just like, okay, I got it, you're here,
Right.
but the genuine embraces, the sheer number of that, it just speaks volumes to, her and how connected she is to the students. So, so all that's really great. For Mendez, work continues. They're probably going to, finish up in the next month or so with most of the contracted work, and so they're loaming the field. They're seeding it probably, I think, on Saturday. They're working on the other areas that are, there's area outcropping by the pond. There's the fields. There's the Fisk Road access road that I think they just seeded that last week. So things are coming along. Talked to them about potentially leaving the driven fence up around the fields, as opposed to taking it down and putting up, some less restrictive barriers would be better, I think, to protect it more formally. So we're looking at that. But yeah, things are progressing.
Awesome, thank you.
We already talked about graduation and senior week. That was kind of the update I would have brought. I did go to the ASHPAC meeting earlier this week. There's not a whole lot to necessarily bring back to the committee. Brittany always does a great job of updating them on, hiring and, different programmatic issues and answering questions. But there was no big takeaway from the meeting that I was a part of. But ASHPAC, I let them know we're going to be having our retreat this summer. So if there was anything that they wanted to make sure was a part of the conversation, to feel free to talk amongst themselves and share. So I'll certainly share if anything comes back to me on that.
The only thing other than graduation, actually one thing related to graduation I should have said before. Can we please have the diplomas not have Lori referred to as the chairman? They should be just
Do they
chair.
have that?
Yes, they do.
I don't even notice.
Yeah.
'Cause
I remember mentioning to you last year.
I
So
still didn't notice.
Lori didn't notice either.
I've only signed 10,000 of those things
Right.
over the last 10 years.
Well, let's get with the times here. So that was one. Yeah.
I am the man. You don't think I'm the man?
No, I don't. So the other thing, and I don't know if I talked about this last meeting or not, or 2 meetings ago. There was the last site council meeting at the high school. Kevin Anderson, our athletic director, came in. Excuse me.
God. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. Kevin came in and answered questions, and there's a lot of engagement. He probably could have been there for a couple more hours. I think he was probably almost an hour of the agenda, as it turned out. Wasn't the plan, but one of the things that I think that just was a focus of attention and concern is the issue that I think has been brought to our attention to some degree in the past around field management and in particular field condition and access to fields. Concerns about when an outside group like youth football, youth baseball, what have you, has sort of reserved the field through proper channels, and then we need to take them and bump other people off. So we talked a lot about the history of that and some of the challenges with that, but since it is something that I think has come up in different points in our conversations, I just share that there continues to be some concern about that, and it was a focal point of some of the conversation. So wanted to report that back.
Thanks, Mark. I do not have anything to add. I'll move right on to member updates.
That is member.
You just did that.
I mean, action items, sorry. The words that came out of my mouth were not the same words that were in my brain. But anyhow, action items.
Then you're lucky it was only that,
Exactly.
just repeating something.
That never happens. The next thing we're going to do, as you all know, is have our summer retreat. So I'm sure, Jim, you've been keeping track of all the different times we say we'll talk about that in the summer, and building a proposed resume. But agenda, geez. See, it's 8:15. It's past my bedtime.
Let's just go into executive session. Don't let Lori talk anymore.
I was going to say, do we need to take a vote to go past 8 for you or something?
If you have a summer topic that you think should be on the agenda, please let us know soon. Because Jim or Mark, my only time to sit down and talk about that agenda will be for like the next 10 days. And then I'll be away for a bit, and you guys are probably have your own vacation plans, so we'll have to figure out a good time to talk about it. But for the rest of you, if you want your topic on there, let us know as soon as you can, please. Anything else from anybody before I move to go into executive session? All right. I move to go into executive session under 21A3 to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, I so declare, and not to return to open session, and this is regarding the Ashland school custodians and the maintenance workers, public employees, local union 1156. So I will take the roll call. Paul Kendall.
Aye.
Tina.
Aye.
Mark.
Second, and I.
Oh, sorry, thank you. And I. So, good night, everybody. Thank you, and we will see you soon in executive session, the rest of you.